history of this Commission on Fine Arts. This had never happened before, that the President or his administration had asked for the termination of all 3 members of the committee. Can you give us any clarification on why this move was made and why the President decided to remove these commissioners?
I unfortunately don't have all the details on this. The little piece I recall is that a number of them were nominated just recently in January of 2021, so before President Trump left office. And certainly any president coming in has the right to nominate their own people to serve on a commission or serve in any positions in their own administration. But I can see if there's more details to provide to you. Go ahead.
If there is not a negotiation that has been able to be reached on today on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, what is the president willing to do? What if this just cannot go through?
Well, that's not the indication we've been given by any of the negotiators who put out a joint statement yesterday indicating that there was progress, that there was an opportunity to move these negotiations forward, and the president thought that was encouraging.
Part of that was the issue of qualified immunity. How does the president feel is deciding, is he more on the side of like Congressman Clyburn, who says let's take it out and come back to that issue, or more on the side of Representative Maxine Waters, who's like, I'm not just going to take just anything? How does he feel with that?
Well, the president was a supporter of the original bill proposed, but he also wants to leave space for the negotiators. He has a great deal of trust in Congresswoman Bass, and he's looking forward to seeing what comes out of those discussions.
One more question. What percentage of the approximate 48 million rental units that are available in the U.S., how many are actually covered under the eviction moratorium?
That's a great, excellent question.
All
I'd have to check with our Department of Housing.
Hopefully they'll tell me here in a minute that they can hear
HUD,
me talking.
the HUD. I'll check with our friends at HUD, and I'm happy to get a number to you if that's available.
You are.
Thank you. And to build off her question on police reform,
Sure.
Is there a plan B? Would President Biden use executive action on police reform?
Well, he's already, of course, taken many executive actions. He wants, at this point, he feels that most constructive role he can play is to stay in close touch with the negotiators, to make sure he is continuing to advocate for moving this legislation forward and leave space for them to negotiate. So we're not going to get ahead of that. He was encouraged by the public statement made by the negotiators, bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans, just yesterday.
Lawmakers say they're making progress. Is President Biden happy with the progress they're making, or would he like them to pick up the pace a bit?
The president looks forward to signing the bill into law as soon as possible, but he is encouraged by the fact that they're making progress, and he'll stay in close touch with them as they continue to negotiate. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. A couple more on infrastructure. Senator Wicker up on the Hill just said a little while ago.
Oh, she's talking garbage. Honcho's letting us know there's a hot mic.
But he also said we're going to make an offer which will make it clear that we're not going to disturb the 2017 tax.
I'm going to mute you for a second.
If that is indeed the case, is
Hey,
there any way in which
Honcho,
the White House would
you can hear me and Pete up in the background.
2017
How's the
tax bill is not
aspect
touched?
ratio?
That sounds like a question
and
for Senator
how's
Wicker.
the,
What are they proposing instead to pay for it?
How am I coming through?
I guess you guys need to see some of the details, but in terms of a top line, if that just flat out isn't touched, does that mean you guys can't come?
The proposal is about investing in infrastructure, creating millions of jobs, making sure we're competing with China and preparing our workforce. The president proposed a way to pay for it. We're waiting hear back from Republicans on how they would propose to pay for it. So if they don't want to touch the 2017 tax cuts, $2 trillion tax cuts that did not end up having a windfall back to the American public.
Thank you, Honcho. I really appreciate
I guess
all
that's
your
their
help,
choice
bud.
what they put in
I
their
really
proposal,
do.
but they have to propose an alternative. So I guess I hope you ask Senator Wicker that question.
And to bounce off another question
Perfect.
as well.
Thank you.
Can you assure the American people that there is going to be an infrastructure package, whether it's negotiated between
I'm going to
the
mute
White
now
House,
and just let y'all
congressional
let you
Democrats,
listen.
and
We only got
congressional
one watching right
Republicans, or if this ends up going down the line of reconciliation in which Democrats come together and put forth their own plan, one way or another, however this comes about? Are you confident that there, at the end of the day, is going to be an infrastructure package?
Well, the president's only line in the sand is inaction. Right now, we're in the midst of bipartisan negotiations. We're looking forward to getting a counterproposal. We're seeing bills marked up over the next few days that are a down payment on the president's ideas. Those are all positive signs. So we're in the midst of progress here, So that's what we're focused on at this point. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. To follow up on some of the questions about investigations, the origins of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
You've spoken a lot about the need for an independent investigation. What role does the Biden administration think U.S. scientists or CDC scientists should play in that investigation?
Well, the WHO would be the body that would be overseeing a transparent, independent phase 2 investigation. That's something we have strongly supported. That would require China finally stepping up and allowing access needed to determine the origins. Of course, the United States would be supportive of that second stage of the investigation, but it would be led by an international body.
So the U.S. wouldn't take a leading role, essentially, in
Again, the WHO, which we rejoined when the president took office, is the body that we have been pressing and is the appropriate body for moving this investigation forward.
Just quickly, given some of the concerns among some economists and some lawmakers about inflation, has the president considered loosening trade barriers like some of the tariffs that were put in place during the last administration to sort of combat those concerns, or is he, I guess essentially, is he weighing lifting some of those trade barriers like tariffs?
Well, we're constantly reviewing the policies of the last administration, but I would reiterate that monitoring inflation is obviously the purview of the Federal Reserve. Our economists have conveyed that they feel that the impact of our proposals will be transitory. The economy is getting going again, but in terms of any actions that would be taken, we would defer to the Federal Reserve. Go ahead in the back. Oh, and I'll come back to you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you. Go ahead. Yep.
The Anti-Defamation League has noticed an increase of over 63% in reported anti-Semitic incidents since May 10th. Both the president and the vice president have condemned them, but can you discuss how the administration is working with various stakeholders and outside groups to try and curb them?
Sure. Well, I will say that the president we issued a tweet from the president. He issued a tweet yesterday conveying his concern about the anti-Semitic acts we've seen happen around the country. This is something that he has spoken passionately out against anti-Semitism throughout his career. From one of his first speeches, just to take you in the time machine, as senator, he condemned anti-Semitism from the Senate floor in May of 1973, obviously up to his vocal condemnation of the events at Charlottesville. He recognizes this is a persistent evil that always deserves our attention and efforts. We've been working in close and ongoing contact. We've been in close and ongoing contact, I should say, with the Jewish community to offer our support. We've taken steps to confront anti-Semitic violence and hate crimes of any type, including by signing into law stronger hate crimes legislation just last week. But we are also working to bolster safety and security of synagogues and other religiously affiliated facilities and organizations. DHS has briefed security directors across the Jewish community in the United States and is preparing a public awareness bulletin that will include security measures individuals and facilities can take. So we have an across-government effort that the president is quite focused on.
Follow up on that, some Jewish groups are planning a day of action against anti-Semitism on May 27th, which is this Thursday. Do the president or the vice president have plans to make any remarks there or make virtual appearances?
I know the president will be traveling on Thursday, and he'll in Ohio, and he'll be delivering an economic speech. I can see if there's anything more on scheduling plans to read out to all of you. Go ahead in the back.
Just in terms of transatlantic travel, the EU last week announced an easing of restrictions on Americans coming into Europe, and yet most of the rest of the world is not permitted back into America at the moment. Does the president have any plans to ease restrictions on incoming travellers from the EU? Maybe this summer, and particularly maybe the summit you mentioned next month in Brussels?
Well, currently we have no announcements in regards to lifting existing travel restrictions. Any decision to change or lift them would be based on the guidance of our public health experts, of course, and an interagency process, including all relevant agencies, would be required to ensure a policy change is operationalized appropriately. I will say, of course, we want to have travel resume between the United States and Europe and other countries around the world. We're very mindful of the pandemic, ensuring we're taking every step we can to keep the American people safe, and that's why we rely on the guidance of public health officials.
And just a quick second question. We're now more than 4 months into the presidency, and very few ambassador positions have been announced. A, when should we expect something on that? And B, just a bit more specifically, more than 24 members of Congress have written to the President calling for the appointment of a special envoy for Northern Ireland in light of recent an uptick in tensions there. Is there any plan to appoint a special envoy to Northern Ireland?
Well, on the latter, we certainly continue to closely monitor issues in Northern Ireland. We welcome the provisions in both the trade deal between the United Kingdom and European Union and Northern Ireland Protocol which will help protect the gains of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. I don't have any personnel to announce for you. That would be the State Department that would make that recommendation in terms of ambassadors. I know I keep saying this, but coming soon. But I don't have any update for all of you today. Go ahead. Okay, sorry, this got to be the last one.
Some governors and mayors want to use their portion of the $350 billion in direct aid from the American Rescue Plan on infrastructure, such as road and bridges repairs. But this type of infrastructure spending is prohibited under the American Rescue Plan law. Is the Biden administration open to offering more flexibility to allow cities and states to use their money on roads, bridges, and other infrastructure improvements?
The state and local funding?
Yes.
From the American Rescue Plan, just to make sure I understand what you're asking about. Look, there were certain parameters that were quite broad that were put into this law and in the implementation phase of this as this money went out to communities. One of the
All right, Peter, Honcho, I really appreciate your help, and please be picky on this stuff for us. All right, it looks like you're saying everything's good. Don't worry about complaining. You need to let us know, and I really appreciate your help. We're looking at the cell phone stuff now, so if you hear us talking in the background, it's because we're trying to get the cell phone looks a little different. So, all righty.